Let me see if I can. Okay. All right, great. All right,
Oh, I need a beer.
Chad Floyd. Oh, I'm just proud he's here. To be perfectly honest. You know what? I'm glad he's here. I'm not. I'm not sad at all. Let's see if I can do this.
One thing we don't do on the weekly hangover is judge people. We don't do that.
We totally judge people. We shouldn't judge ourselves. We don't reflect and judge ourselves.
Yes, yeah, okay, yeah. That's a better way of saying it.
We can't get on board with that kind of introspection. I'm gonna put a post up on the site and just have it be like our live, because I guess like I was looking through the options for links and I can embed this video or embed the YouTube link so it streams live on the site, which is actually not a terrible idea.
So Hall and I were talking on Wednesday. I'm pretty impressed at how, we didn't do anything for like 2 months and our numbers just popped right back this past week.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
As long as we actually do things, people will show up.
If you build it.
Indeed.
All right, I can't remember my WordPress login. That's not it. There it is. All right, so I'm pressing it. That took way longer than it probably should have.
Every time I try to tweet Palmer's username, I go DP and then it has the autofill and I hit space and it goes do on 66 every fucking time. So there's that. At has on as a Smith. Kidding me?
Your phone is terrible.
Autocorrect is such an asshole.
I'm an asshole? I am an asshole.
I said autocorrect, but also you. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh my God, what's wrong with this thing? There we go. All right, copy. Technology. It's smarter than me. All right, let's see what we can do here. Because if we can get this up, we don't have to link to the YouTube page. We can actually just link to this post, which I probably should do beforehand. Like, I guess now that I know I can do it, I should probably plan and actually like make this happen. Let's see. I don't see anything. Computer. This is not a vote of confidence. Oh, maybe it is.
The world waits with bated breath.
Indeed.
Well, someone's watching. We have a viewer. Hello, viewer.
Hello, viewer.
Sorry, I can stop cussing out Chad. I can stop cussing out Chad now. Just out of curiosity, let's see what happens if I hit play on this static thing on the sites. Nothing? Nothing? I thought it was in a stream. I thought it streamed. Well, maybe it does. Oh.
Are we live?
Oh. Oh, we're live on the site. That is terrifying.
This is a first for me.
Oh wow. This power that I have welded.
We actually have to do this right this
your
time.
Link. Oh, where's my video? Yeah. All right.
Hi, America.
Oh, hello, America. Good night, world. Yeah, they click on there and they hit play. They will see us doing exactly this. Oh, all right.
I feel like my privacy is
Chad, can you talk intelligent? It is. It's being totally violated by me. Topics. Chad, can you talk about the new ACC logo?
The ACC logo?
Chad?
Yeah. Dude, you're breaking up a little bit.
Did you see it?
Yeah, it looks like the old Big East.
Okay,
or it looks like the Big East.
Try to stop that.
Yeah, I've got it. That's fine.
I like that logo. I like the new logo. All right, next is going to be McElroy Wozniacki, which got less entertaining because he was bad yesterday.
Yeah, that was really fun on Thursday afternoon.
I literally had not heard that story until you put it in the lineup.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to talk about it anyway because last week, like, the breakup apparently it was a 3-minute phone call, which is hilarious to me.
It's a voicemail.
It was a voicemail. All right, we'll save that. Apparently, that's gonna be a funny conversation, so we'll save that one. The LeBron fouls in Game 5, and then the complete demolition of the Pacers in Game 6. The Clippers being for sale. I want names. I've got 3 names in my head. I don't think they need to change the Clippers names. I think it'd be cool if they did.
I've got 1.
All right, cool. And last but certainly not least, the spelling bee ended in a tie. We're going to talk about that, and I have a couple questions. I have a question for you guys. If I brought a hypothetical a week and we just debated a hypothetical to start the show, would that be entertaining for you two?
Possibly.
Sure.
All right. So,
do we want to do anything with James Franklin and having camp in Atlanta?
No. Who cares about Penn State football? It's just, who cares?
Well, it applies to
and if you're watching us, if you're watching us and you're a Penn State fan, stop watching. There. I'll go ahead and alienate our Penn State fan base. I did it. It was Daniel Palmer. Join us for the...
And he's the Pennsylvanian. You live close enough to Daniel Palmer to where you can go kill him.
Indeed.
Wow, that was a little forward. I hope that's just my dad watching, to be honest.
Or it was James Franklin.
Or Bob Shoop, because apparently he caught me on Twitter.
Boop shop. So when are we hitting live on this bad boy?
Well, I've already hit live. We're recording. I mean, obviously we're live, but I'll start. I'm trying to write a Facebook post and a Twitter thing too. Watch the magic.
Jason, what's up with you as Daniel Palmer struggles with technology?
I'm very tired.
My wife is downstairs currently finishing up the last episode of The Wire, so I'm gonna hopefully she won't come walking through from our basement, but you know she might in like tears because The Wire finale is really great. So, and then other than that, I'm not doing anything. I'm off school for like a couple of months. We're getting ready to go down to the Nigeria USA World Cup not qualifier friendly before the World Cup. So we're leaving this weekend for that.
Very nice. See, it's more likely, I think, that your wife's going to levitate after seeing the finale of The Wire.
That's what I think too. She's a teacher, and the ending of season 4, like that messes her up. And I didn't get the ending of season 4 until I watched it with her as a teacher. So, and I taught for a year too. Like I taught last year. Yeah. I didn't get the ending of season 4 until she like watched it with me and like broke. And I was like, well, what's going on? And she's like, you have to understand. And we had this huge conversation about it. I'm going to write about it sooner or later, but I don't know. But it was cool.
That's The Wire revisit on dudeyoucrazy.net. You've heard it here first, folks.
Indeed. If the lone viewer out there has not watched The Wire, you need to watch it like yesterday.
I'm putting...
I watch The Wire every summer.
Wait, what?
I'm putting 2 people on the Breaking Bad today, but Palmer, where is The Wire on your summer watch list right now? Because I know it ranks high.
It's something I do every summer because baseball's boring, but we've also got World Cup this year, so
yes,
I've got to find a way to balance it all because I know it's going to be a problem for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean The Wire's up there. It's going to be. I think it's going to rank The Wire because like I said, I rewatch it every year during baseball season just because I can't be bothered with baseball. Yeah. And all right, so now we've got the tweet out, the Facebook links out. Anyone comes in? Oh, we lost our viewer. Well, that's impressive.
It might have been you, like when you plugged in and clicked on there.
Oh, it totally was me. Screw it. All right, I'm gonna hit. I'm gonna start talking. And we're gonna get going. All right. So we've got the topics. One viewer again. Is it me still? Damn it. No, I think it's someone else. Hello, viewer. All right, we're getting started. Welcome back to DYP Podcast. We're back with your weekly sports hangover, saving your Saturdays until college football starts up again. I'm, of course, Daniel Palmer. I'm joined this week by Jason Smith and Chad Floyd. You can find all of us over at dudeyoucrazy.net. If you're listening to us, do me a favor. Click that little subscribe button on your iTunes and Stitcher and never miss an episode. Jason Smith, what's going on, man?
Not a whole heck of a lot. Just enjoying my summer break as a grad student and desperately waiting for the World Cup to start in less than 2 weeks. So the lone soccer fan hanging out in the Dude You Crazy squad is jonesing and is ready.
For what it's worth, I think I'm above casual soccer fan, and it peaks like this time every 4 years. I'll be honest, but yeah, I won't call myself a soccer fan, but I'm right with you. I'm ready for the cut to start. We've also got Chad Floyd out of Atlanta, Georgia. Chad Floyd, what's going on, man?
Not too much. There's no hangover to report because I'm actually working all weekend, which is just kind of throwing me for a huge loop here.
First time in years.
I will say, though, that I always think after the World Cup every 4 years that I want to be a soccer fan, and then, it just kind of falls back into obscurity. It's like hockey in the Winter Olympics, basically.
Well, that's the thing about soccer is that when you sign on in the World Cup, like they try to do things that are like friendly enough time-wise where you can kind of catch it or you catch the replays. It's hard to track down soccer, and you have to really look for soccer, I feel, on the dial when it's not World Cup season, which I've done occasionally, but like you said, it's too much work, and I can just sit back and be spoon-fed football and basketball.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with something that's near and dear to Chad Floyd's heart, the ACC logo. Aside from the fact that I'm not sure this is real, but I think they should roll out the phrase "Go ACC" as the new slogan. This new logo is, to say gently, a departure from the old logo. Chad Floyd, you're a lifelong ACC fan. You're born and raised in ACC country. What do you think of this new logo?
Well, first of all, I love your idea of branding just as hashtag Go ACC, kind of like the Matt Dillon match.
Oh yeah,
I think that should just happen. I mean, it is absolutely a departure from the old ACC with the map logo, and really, everything I thought about. The first thing I said was, "Wow, that looks a lot like the Big East logo." And when you bring 7 teams in from the Big East over the past 12 years, I guess you're going to have that. I mean, they are really trying to move away from the past and into the future, and which is okay when you have as little football success as the league has had with the exclusion of Florida State last year. I don't know. I mean, I'm neutral towards it. I'm not huge into branding because that's just an annoying field, and I'll let Darren Ravel just make an idiot of himself with it.
I was about to make a Ravel joke. Well, Jason, have you seen the logo?
I'm so behind on all sports stories this week, guys. I don't know what it is, but literally when you guys emailed me the lineup, I was like, I've never heard of that. I didn't watch that game. I didn't see LeBron foul out. Literally, I just Googled it all before we showed up. So this is me going off the cuff. The only thing I would say about this, in the inevitability of branding, is these new logo things to me always end up being number one, no one can ever have a compelling reason for why they did it. It's trying to really figure out who is on first. That's what it feels like. There's no real compelling reason other than it's just a cycle of branding that you have to change it every 2 years, otherwise it gets boring. I love the thought of it being the old. Chad, I had not made that connection between them adding all the Big East teams and then taking over basically the Big East font. I think that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, the only thing it makes me wish for is to rewatch Requiem for the Big East again, because that 30 for 30 was. Now that we're giving out TV suggestions before the show, during the show, you should go watch that documentary if you have not seen it. People listening or watching right now.
That's a great one. I will tell you 2 things I really like about it. One, very similar to how a lot of schools have done. Georgia did it last year. Part of the ACC rebranding process is to have all of the schools, have the same font across all of their sports. So where Georgia football changed their numbers to match the rest of the team, You're going to have all the ACC teams within a year or two doing that. And I think that's. I don't really know. That's neat. I guess it just shows some solidarity. 2, just because below the Big East ACC logo, they have the 15 school logos, because alphabetical order is a beautiful thing. North Carolina is just front and center, right in the middle of the 15 logos, and that's beautiful.
For what it's worth, it took you a good 10 minutes to just put this into a UNC focused question, and I'm proud of you for the restraint. All right, next story. McElroy Wozniacki. I wasn't going to cover it last week because I don't like covering gossip news, even though I did make a bunch of Roy Hibbert jokes a couple of pods ago. So they were engaged. They're 2 young people. They're rich. They're sports famous. and they were engaged. The invitations went out. McElroy realized the invitations went out and left Wozniacki a voicemail breaking off the engagement and dumping her. Apparently, it was a 3-minute voicemail that she thought originally was a joke. Since that happened, Wozniacki was knocked out in the first round of the French. Did my video stop? Knocked out in the first round of the French, and Rory McIlroy roared to victory last week. This Thursday, the reason I put it on the rundown was this Thursday, everyone was like, well, maybe Roy, you see the effects. Maybe it was just a 1-week thing, and he came out and threw out a 63 on Thursday afternoon. I'm not going to turn this into the He-Man Woman Haters Club because I'm sure Chad will do that when we turn to him. Jason, do you think this is an indictment of relationships and athletes, or is it just a young guy with a little stress off his plate?
As a married guy,
there's no right answer, by the way.
As a married man, I be very careful in how I answer this question. Let's just be real quick. This is another story I had to Google, so I don't know why you're going to me first, by the way.
I'll go to you.
First off, I want to say that breaking off an engagement, you can break up with somebody in middle school with a 3-minute phone call and a voicemail, but breaking off an engagement over the phone is pretty rough. That's like the equivalent of breaking up with someone over IM back in the day. Like, do face-to-face conversation, Rory. Secondly, is he's not doing himself any favors in being like the guy that we all want to like, because I think after the Masters debacle where he basically hit a house and then hit another, like after the Masters debacle, like I want to root for him every time in Augusta. But now that he broke off an engagement, caused poor trauma for this girl who's also a professional athlete, and then goes out and just kills the next day, like that makes you want to not root for this guy.
He won last week, didn't he?
He did win last week, and that makes me want to cheer for him. I don't see. I guess you have to take a certain stance because you're in a certain situation. I respect that, but if anything, this made him, if not more likable, and not an inspiration. In case my girlfriend's watching this, she's not gonna watch this. He doesn't make him inspiration. It just reminds you that actually I have no good way out of this phrase. So I'm going to turn to Chad Floyd. Chad Floyd, save us.
All I've got is there's another golfer who got out of a sticky situation with a significant other recently, and it did not work out so well for him. So it's interesting. I'm going up to the U.S. Open in 2 weeks, and I can't wait to see what Rory McIlroy does. I hope he just runs up and down number 2, shoots 66s, wins the tournament by like 8 strokes. Because it would just be hilarious.
My hope.
I feel, and I say that feeling very bad for Caroline Wozniacki, who, by all accounts, is an attractive girl. She's not the best-looking tennis player I've ever seen, and I don't really want to get further into it than that. But it's just funny. Like the whole situation is just jacked up. I don't break dinner dates over the phone. Well, I guess I would because I wouldn't go to dinner and be like, oh, I can't come. Anyway, I got nothing. Sorry, I've got nothing here.
Well, that went about as poorly as I hoped it would. Let's move on to a little round ball. Last night, the Heat dispatched of the Pacers in overly dominant fashion. I put this on here because 2 games ago, LeBron lived with 5 fouls, was barely on the court, and they only lost by 3 in Indianapolis. Chad, I'll go to you first as our resident basketball nut like me. 1, do you think the fouls were actual fouls in that first game? And 2, what's next for the Pacers? Like, is this a Larry Bird kills everyone and coaches the team himself thing, and have we seen the last of Lance in Indianapolis?
Oh, Lance has got to go. A buddy of mine and I were trying to figure out who today's Bill Laimbeer was before this series, and then we get with Lance. To answer the second question first, what the Pacers season reminded me of is like a really good internship that you get in October. You start the internship, you're really excited, you're going to win the East, you're going to get that job, and you play exceptionally well about to the All-Star break, and then you're like, man, A, these people are just using me for free labor. B, we still aren't going to beat the Heat. And they just become over it. And then, you see it in the playoffs. The Hawks take them to 7, and the Wizards just shellac them in one of the first 2 games. And last night was just the last day where the Pacers just chuck deuces and says, I'm over it. I quit. And that's kind of sad because they really could have been a great foil for the Heat. But It's just funny how it works that way. But I mean, it really just felt like a bad internship for them all season.
Okay, but is there any coming back for them? Or let's put you in Larry Bird's shoes as the greatest small forward of all time and the architect of this Pacers team. What do you do? Do you keep Frank Vogel? Do you keep the key pieces of this team? What do you think the next move is for the Pacers? Because for my money, that's the more interesting story until we get to the finals.
And I mean, you want to say get rid of Hibbert for whatever you can, but I think Hibbert can still be a top 10 center in this league easily.
Okay.
I mean, you don't play Evan Turner at all in the playoffs. He could be an average wing in the NBA. Like, they just have so many moving parts that I really feel like the only solution is to fire Frank Vogel and Larry Bird to step out of the stands and get on that sideline again. So Larry Bird has been to an NBA Finals as a coach.
That's very true. He was one Coach of the Year. He's also one Exec of the Year. Do you think, Jason, we're going to bring you into this. I know like you said, you've been kind of sports agnostic as of late because you're just drunk off not being in school. I respect that. I wish I wasn't in school. I'm not in school, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What do you think? So did you catch either one of these games? First.
I caught enough to know that I feel like it probably isn't on Vogel. Like, I would say the whole thing. Like, it's clear that, like, just because of, like, the emotional catastrophe that was the Pacers throughout this entire series and throughout the whole playoffs, really, it seems to me that you can't put all of that on Vogel, but it makes sense to me if Bird wants to jump back in and coach the team. I still think the biggest problem with this is some team chemistry thing is off, heavily off. Or it feels like you have a whole team full of like Russell Westbrooks. You know, like in the way that Westbrook is so exceptionally talented and can just go off, but he is completely and utterly unable to be coached by anyone. And if he ever has a day where he's having one of his bad days, he's done. He's not going to do anything. He's going to be basically emotionally shut down. It seems to me like the Pacers are that person as a whole team. And so, like, that seems to me like even though Bird had this team within, like, you know, a couple of shots of beating the Heat last year, I think he's got to go back to the drawing board. I think a lot of this has got to be about personnel. The real question to me that I would have loved to have seen the Wizards play the Heat. I'm sorry. Like, I would have loved to have seen John Wall try to beat the Heat. I feel like that would have been a way more interesting series to me than the Pacers right now. Because after watching them play the Hawks, I think we all knew that eventually this was going to implode. We just didn't know how long it was going to take.
I think that on its face, John Wall versus the Heat is entertaining, if only because they'd have to put LeBron on him because I don't think Chalmers can stop John Wall. But at the same time, that's not a very deep team, and that would have been a very fast and brutal series.
Probably.
I don't think the
Wizards would have started. I don't disagree, but there's a possibility that what if like the Wizards take it to like 5 games, you know, or 6 games even? Then it's like really, you know, you start to ask yourself, well, are the Wizards about to do this? And John Wall becomes more of a household name.
Yeah,
honestly,
it becomes a situation where you start to question whether the balance of power is going to shift in the next couple of years because Wall and Beal is going to be a problem. Palmer, I want to throw this one at you.
All right.
I think everybody kind of jumping on the Paul George bandwagon, calling him the 3rd best player in the world earlier this season. Do you think that had anything to do with Paul George becoming, I'm going to dribble out the clock and take a 20-foot contested fadeaway?
It's the Pat Riley disease of more. If you've read any of Pat's books, and I'm a sports nerd, so I have. He talks about this when guys get success. When a team is success, everyone starts saying, "I want more money. I want more touches. I think I'm better. I want more of this. I want more of that." A big story at the All-Star break was that Lance Hill was the All-Star team, and how everyone felt it was a snub, and how Paul George was emerging as a top flight player. You can't give me 3 months of a player in one series and tell me that he's a top flight, top 10 NBA guy. I'm not going to bite. I watched the league long enough. I watched guys come in and flame out. I watched guys who stayed. Paul George, he's a great basketball player. He has games like Game 5 where he's able to put the team on his back, but it's not consistent enough now. We see flashes of it. We see the possibility. I think we've seen Paul George's ceiling. We just haven't seen how consistently he can hit that ceiling.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, that maybe some of that got in his head, and not being used to that kind of success in the spotlight results in pictures like the one that keeps floating around Twitter that they took this season where they look like an R&B group who's releasing their first album. Like, they look ridiculous. And Paul George is right in front. Like, I think it was too much too soon. I will say this: if you watched the press conferences last night, which I did because I love things like this, I love awkward moments. Frank Vogel looked broken. If you can catch video of his press, he's like 3 years in a row. They're like, well, what's the difference in you and Miami? They can get to a level that we can't get to yet. And it's sad and it's slow and he's talking low and you're like, damn, Frank, man, y'all won like 60 games and like you want to console Frank Vogel and it doesn't. Like the man's a very well compensated, very accomplished coach, but I felt legitimately bad for him, which doesn't happen in sports often.
See, that's why I think this is about personnel, is because that to me only confirms that like Vogel was carrying a weight this whole time. You know what I mean? Like he was carrying all of these people.
He was carrying Roy Hibbert.
Yeah. Now, here's the question I do have though for both you basketball nuts, because I am just a victim of the stereotype that the East just sucks, right?
It's not wrong.
No, I mean that's absolutely
not wrong.
I mean, is there any team that could have played the Heat better than the Pacers?
Matchup wise, I think. Actually, Chad, you go first. I'll close it out and transition.
No. The Pacers were the best match for the Heat, and nobody thought the Pacers had a chance. Just no.
Yeah, no. Well, I would concede that this year in the East, especially at the top, injuries really shut things down. The Bulls.
Derrick Rose would have made a big difference.
That's fine. The Bulls with the Derrick Rose, the Bobcats / Hornets with a healthy Al Jefferson. Even the Hawks with a healthy Al Horford match up better because of the spacing issues they create. The Heat like to go small, like to play smaller lineups. The reason the Pacers struggled early against the Hawks and the Wizards because they don't do all small lineups. It was a matchup nightmare for them. Last year, the thing was the Pacers went big and the Heat tried to answer by going bigger. And now Spoelstra's like, oh, we'll just speed you to death. And that's exactly what he did. I think that it would be interesting to see even the healthy Nets team. If you've got is it Brook Lopez who didn't play the last half of the season? Brook Lopez is a top 10 center, and if he's athletic enough to be spaced out and to cover Bosch on those corner threes, I think that any one of those teams at full strength could be better. And I think next year's going to be interesting as the Heat get older and as the bottom of this conference starts to rise, because the Hawks made the 8th seed without their best player for the last, call it, 60 games. And I think that, and if Derrick Rose turns to be Derrick Rose and not Penny Hardaway, there's another team that I think can legitimately. I think the Pacers more than anything else was what we wanted them to be. We wanted them to be the team that challenged. We thought that because it got close last year and the year before, we wanted to accept that narrative. And the Heat just keep reminding us that LeBron James is the best basketball player on the planet. Spoelstra's a better coach than you give him credit for, and they've adapted and changed over these last 4 years. And now this is the third franchise in history of the NBA to make 4 straight finals. And anyone who hates on LeBron on the court at this point is lying to themselves, because if you didn't watch last night, he's 8 of 12 shooting, 25 points, a bunch of boards, a bunch of assists, and he made it look easy, and he blew out the Pacers by 30.
8 of 12 for 25 points.
Which is ridiculous.
That's marvelous.
It's
marvelous.
Just mathematically, it's hard to not appreciate. Let's go for a quick moment of silence. We've been bleeding this stuck pig for a while. I know last week I said it was kind of over, but it's officially over. Or as over as it's going to get for now. Donald Sterling, I'll miss you. Not for any reason that you'd like me to miss you, but because I like mocking you. So the Clippers sale went through, or has been proposed and accepted by the Sterling Family Trust. And it's Steve Ballmer for $2 billion. Andrew wrote a piece yesterday stating that it was a bad thing. I corrected him in my follow-up piece, explaining why this was good for basketball and good for the NBA. What's y'all's takes? $2 million, Jason Smith. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. The thing I don't understand is people go, well. The one thing that I heard the other day on the radio here in Nashville was someone saying, you're going to have a hard time understanding $2 billion if you think of Ballmer coming at this as like he wants revenue return. You know, the guy's like, this is not like a revenue project. This is a toy. Like this, he wanted it, so he went out and he bought it. Like that's all this is. This is a car. You know, like a brand new car or a boat or something. Like this is his thing. That's all it is. So don't look at this to make any sense from a business perspective. And partly it does. Like you could do something with the Clippers, and they've definitely I think we all can admit they've had their best 5 or 6 years in franchise history these past 5 or 6 years once they got Blake Griffin and once they got CP3. So, I mean, it's $2 billion, but I think even me and you, Palmer, talked about this anyway at the beginning of the Donald Sterling thing. Like, we all knew the Sterlings were going to make a crap ton of money off this. And we're just waiting to see how much they're going to make. And it's $2 billion.
And it turned out to be an actual, literal crap ton. I looked it up. $2 billion reaches crap ton level.
Yep. Urban
we were right. Once again, DYP Podcast bringing the news before it happens. Chad Floyd, you and I have joked about Sterling for years. We've been friends for years. What do you think of $2 billion is? And from the Zune Pope, which I Googled and it has not been said on the internet before I said it.
The man who created the Zune has enough assets to put $2 billion into a basketball team.
Zune Pope.
You know how $2 billion, if you break it out into $100 bills, is 20 tons of $100 bills.
That's amazing. I really hope you measured that. I hope no one challenges that claim.
If this were around the horn,
I would love to be the scientist that determined that. But
there will be points in the future iteration of the Hangover. I like that.
Oh man, but it's always fascinating to me, as a person who has a little bit of a academic background in the sports industry, to where when you have a big market team like the Clippers, like the Dodgers a couple of years ago when they sold the Magic Johnson, just completely blow out of the water the valuation of what teams should cost, because there's so much more revenue potential. And with the NBA coming into a new deal, still expanding overseas, TV deals, new media, it's not going to be. I mean, I would say the Bucks owner Eden stands to lose more money having bought the Bucks for $600 million than Ballmer does with the Clippers at $2 billion.
No, I think you're right in that when Ballmer decided to buy the Clippers, he bought things with assets. The Bucks don't have anything. The only thing the Bucks have over the Clippers is that they actually own their stadium. They're not renters. And even then, you're owning a stadium in Milwaukee. So what do you really
and you own a stadium that's older than I am. I think the Bradley Center is older than the Charlotte Coliseum, which was torn down like 6 years ago. I mean that is a dated stadium by NBA standards.
No, you're 100% right. I think that this wasn't. It wasn't, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and tell billionaires how to spend their money. I'm not going to say it was a smart or dumb purchase. I will say this. I think it's a framework for how purchases are going to go from now on. It's not going to be a situation where we had a couple of years ago where lots of teams were openly for sale. I'm pretty sure I caught the Sixers on Craigslist and considered it. I was like, I could make that work, but I'm going to pass. I think a situation where this is going to turn into more of an NBA ownership model where these teams are going to be passed down to generations. I know people were wondering that, well, maybe all the NBA teams are going to sell. Everyone sees how much money they're going to sell their teams. It's like Jason said. This is a toy. This is a cool car.
Yeah.
This is a point of pride. This is not like no one's in the NBA to make money, solely make money. Excuse me. But to be able to say,
Donald Sterling was.
Well, and he did for a very long time. But to be able to say that you're one of 30 people in the world who owns an NBA team, or 32, excuse me, that's an exclusive club that you just bought your way into. And I think that the scarcity is going to drive up prices going further. I doubt that we have a situation like this where it's a league for sale going forward. But if you do a situation where you see a team change hands, it's going to be expensive. When's the last time you saw an NBA team or an NFL team, get just flat out sold? It was the Browns, and they went for $1.6 billion, I think, 2 years ago or a year ago.
Can you imagine if this happened with a really, really profitable NFL franchise right now?
What's happened with the Patriots? And
that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, what if Bob Kraft had to sell the Patriots right now on the open market?
And that's the thing. Is that because once you create that, once it's only one of them you can buy, that valuation number you got from Forbes is out the window.
Yeah.
It's out the window. Because the first two bids were 1.4 and 1.6, and they were denied on their face. Ballmer came way over the top and offered the two. This is a situation where it's always going to be a seller's market, and the NBA in that facet is turning the NFL. And I think that makes some people nervous. What it really should do is make some people realize that this new CBA is just that good for the owners.
Yeah.
It's just that good. There's no built-in Reno for media rights. So the next time they can renegotiate media rights for players and money for players is the next time the CBA is up, which I believe is in 9 years. So we're going to see at least 4 or 5 years of just unbridled prosperity for owners there. who, by the way, are happy the NBA Players Association still doesn't have a chairman. I've made this comment on 3 straight pods that I've been on. They don't have a chairperson. They need to get somebody, and they've got the most marketable athlete since Jordan and LeBron, and they've got a deeper talent well of players under 27 than I've ever seen in my lifetime. So I think this is going to be an interesting fight when the CBA comes back up, and it will be a fight because the owners are going to have a 4-year window where they're just making money hand over fist. Last but not least, I'm sorry, before we move on to the last one, I want to get some ideas. So I've seen the articles out. People are saying the Clippers' name needs to be changed. I said that for years. It's synonymous with years of losing. Chad Floyd, do you have any alternate name for the LA Clippers?
Well, based on the price, well above market value, based on California's clandestine history with such things, the LA Rolling Blackouts.
See, you didn't take it seriously. That's fine. That's fine.
Of course
You don't make a joke about it. You don't make a joke about it. I think this is a time to get real good branding out there. If someone brings Dude You Crazy on as a consultant because you give him a great name on this podcast, you're being cut out. I said it. Jason, do you have anything for Zune Pope?
Okay. Here's the thing. Ballmer is moving from Seattle to LA, and there was a lot of rumors that he wanted to bring an NBA team back to Seattle. They were worried he was going to move the LA Clippers. Let's just nip this in the bud. LA Supersonics, bring it back. Like, let's actually have the Supersonics back in the NBA. Did I steal yours?
No, you didn't. That's amazing. I hadn't even thought about that. The thing is, would Seattle people take it as the ultimate slap in the face? Like,
absolutely.
You're really not getting your team back.
Absolutely, they would. But like, you're in the far corner of the U.S. Like, no one cares.
Plus, it's built-in marketing with Sonic the Drive-In. I feel pretty good about that name.
Same.
I had 2 names. One is nostalgic, the LA Lights, just because those shoes were the best. If it's social acceptable to wear LA Lights right now, I'd be wearing them. And 2, the Hollywood Knights with a K. So what apparently my real hope was one day we get the Harlem Knights so that I could play that amazing Eddie Murphy movie and make those references every time they play basketball. Clearly we're not getting that. If I can get the Hollywood Knights, and you build your own arena across from Staples, you go like some super gaudy colors, and you call yourself the Hollywood Knights. You get an actual knight on a horse as your mascot. Like, there are no professional teams called the Knights. There are no professional teams called the Knights at this point.
But
Beverly Hills Cops.
The Beverly Hills Cops. Like, there's so
great.
much out there. It's ripe for exploration. If they keep naming the Clippers with their knockoff Lakers logo, I feel like this is a huge missed opportunity by the man who brought us the Zune.
Can you imagine? If they were called the Beverly Hills Cops and then they came onto the floor to the Beverly Hills Cop theme every night? That would be the most incredible thing.
Yeah, man. See, 3 ideas. Ballmer, call us. We got you. We got you. Small
branding.
Small consulting fee. All right, last but not least, one of my, I don't know when I stopped watching this, but apparently the National Scripps Spelling Bee was this week. I remember it used to invade my television. I don't know if the playoffs are getting longer or what, but I missed all of it until the final. For the first time since the 50s, this spelling bee ended in a tie. Chad Floyd, tell me why this is un-American and ridiculous. Because it is, and it is.
Well, first of all, it used to be an annual tradition to drink and have the best drinking game of the year to the Scripps National Spelling Bee. You know, it's only better than like a presidential debate as far as drinking games go. That being said, I have no idea about this story because I think it got buried and I just completely missed it. I've got nothing, but if people tie it, it just plays into the new American everybody gets a medal thing, and that's all I got.
Wow, Chad Floyd now making a stance and taking a statement against what's happened to American culture, really exploding out the Scripps spelling bee there. Jason,
I've got nothing on the story.
The disintegration of our culture, or are you just going to let it be a spelling bee?
You know, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I will complain about with the spelling bee. I don't care that it tied. The thing I care about always is that it happens every year. Let me tell you why I care about it. Look, every time I watch these kids, and like you had a perfect example of it, of the kid who got some word and he started out with like I know it, and then like totally bombed the word, and then you could just tell like social skills. The kid has no social skills because all he's been doing is spelling for like his entire life. The whole time that I watch the spelling bee, I'm like, parents, what are y'all doing? Like you're making these kids like a spectacle for us all to drink to / be like, hey, it's nerd championship. This is just how I feel. I may be wrong. I don't mean to insult the kids because they're brilliant and they do great things with spelling. I'm just saying, these parents are messing with kids' lives up. I'm just saying. Don't want to celebrate bad parenting, and I feel like we're doing that with spelling.
I honestly hope one day that, Jason, you and your wife are blessed with the joy of a child, and that child has an affinity for spelling, and that you nurture that gift. I can throw this conversation back in your face. Is that the gift?
That voodoo on me, Daniel Palmer. I hear you.
One of my mom's proudest stories is when I was in the 4th grade. I had the flu and went to the Scotland County in North Carolina, which is not a very good educational state. It's not a very good educational county. Spelling bee, as a 4th grader, it was elementary and middle school, finished 2nd, and the word I missed, treadmill.
Wow. Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, Chad Floyd has not made his mother proud since 4th grade. You heard it here first.
Also true.
I will say this: if you've ever been interested in spelling, this is our last. This is the weekly. Daniel tells you something obscure and tells you to go watch it. There's a documentary called Spellbound. It follows 14 kids getting ready for the Scripps National Spelling Bee, and then follows one of them to win. It's very creepy and very weird, and you get a good insight into the future of Jason Smith's household as his child will be a speller.
God.
Is it on HBO right before Hard Knocks?
I don't know. It might be, but I'll tell you what. These kids are now adults, and you can find them on Facebook if you want to get really weird with it. I'm just saying it's out there, and it can be done.
Terrible parenting.
Terrible parenting. Thanks again for stopping by at the Hangover. We'll be here every Saturday at noon, 11 if you live in an inferior time zone, Jason. You can find us all at dudeyoucrazy.net. As always, click on the subscribe links at iTunes and Stitcher. Catch us during the week, different Dude You podcasts. And we will be back next week with more fun things for your ears. As always, I'm Daniel Palmer, and we'll talk to you next week.